Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for this very special webinar we have with Workbook today. Linda Levy is going to be doing a semi-live portfolio review with ASMP members Amy Scott and Jason Pietroski, who have very graciously volunteered their photos today. Just a couple quick reminders about ASMP. We're a photographic trade organization. We've been doing a lot these days. We have a ton going on. Coming up, we've got workshops that are happening for our June Member Appreciation Month. We've got 2 more days to sign up for those. So if you can visit our June Member Appreciation Month page, you'll see all the information there. We also have our Legal Action Fund going on. If you've been enjoying these webinars or our town halls on Fridays, we'd love for you to contribute to the work that we're doing. It's a great place to do that. You can see that at the website. And our ASMP Foundation has also started an emergency fund for all artists, including stylists, makeup artists, assistants. You can visit our you can also find information about that on the website. But before we go any further with that stuff, I'd love to introduce Linda Levy of Workbook. A lot of you, I'm sure, have worked with her through Workbook, and she's really excited to share the work that she's been doing over the past couple days getting ready for this. And also a very special thank you to Brian Schilling from ASMP Chicago for helping out with our technology today. We're trying out a few new things, so have a little patience with us as we try those out. Go ahead, Linda, take it away.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's really great to have met Amy and Jason and work with their images. And, you know, when this began, the point of focus was talking about sequencing images in a portfolio. But I actually want to read a couple of thoughts I had this morning that encapsulate the experience I've had in the last couple of days. Before we talk about the importance of portfolio sequencing, let's talk about the importance of having a portfolio to begin with. Why have a portfolio? Because it is a significant opportunity for you to tell the story of how you see the world and how and why you can solve a buyer's problem. It is an extremely valuable asset of introduction and promotion. Yes, of course, the assumption is that you have a website. The pizza seller down the street has a website, and the therapy dog corps has a website. And the physicians, scientists, and engineers groups has a website. Having a website is like having a pulse. If the aim of your promotion includes becoming memorable to potential clients, which is an excellent aim, then having an actual portfolio that is more than a collection of images in a box is a critical part of your strategy. So I just, wanted to fully disclose that I really believe in the power of a carefully crafted portfolio. I also believe in the power of a printed portfolio. So it's been fascinating to work with printed out versions of these images and digital versions of these images because of course they inform each other. And before I show, I'm going to start with Amy because she's right here under the camera on the ceiling. I wanted to say one other thing, that I think one of the biggest differences between a good portfolio and a spectacular portfolio is that a spectacular portfolio has a beginning and a middle and an end. And when you get to the end, you're kind of brought back to where you started, but you're different. You've been transformed in some way. And my favorite analogy to explain that is the movie, The English Patient. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but how it begins with a very close-up image of a watercolor paintbrush on watercolor paper. And the water is going through the texture of the paper, and then it becomes a landscape, and there's a guy flying a biplane, and there's a woman in the back seat with a big drapey scarf. And then the movie unfolds, and it's stunning, and see it if you haven't seen it, and I'm not going to ruin it by telling you that at the end, the footage reappears, only now you know that that's a body, she's dead in the back. And it's the exact same picture of a guy in a plane with a woman in a scarf, but you've traveled so far and you know all kinds of things about it you didn't know at the beginning. So that concept of beginning, middle, and end and having a journey does inform how I look at pictures when laying out portfolios. Brian, can you show the board? Because Amy's images were so exciting to work with because she loves food. I call it food life. I wouldn't call her a food photographer per se, because the images she sent me were all about the creation of the food, the journey of the food, the prep of the food, the emotion in the food. And can we see that okay? Yeah?
It's good.
Okay. So and I can also, now if I don't think I can share the bridge screen at the same time, but I wanted to start this portfolio on the right-hand side. Imagine left and right reading. On the right-hand side is the image of a woman whose name is Elizabeth, I believe, and she's a farmer. Amy, is that right? She's a farmer, and it's just a gorgeous welcoming. She's in her field doing work, and she's looking at the camera, and to me, that image says, "Come on in, I have something to show you." But the next image, which goes across 2 pages, it's a horizontal full bleed spread. It's a guy in a field, and when I first saw it, I thought, oh wow, isn't that cool? The sun is rising. Well, the name of the image is Sunset Over the Rice Fields, which made me laugh. Do we ever know whether it's sunrise or sunset? But yeah, pardon? Yeah, okay, so that's 1, page 2 and 3. Page 4 and 5, the guy holding the rice paddy and the food next to it are intended to be next to each other. Page 6 and 7 are the beets, this woman pulling beets out of the ground and a harvest. Page 8 and 9 next to each other here. I think the guy's name is Piff. And I love him so much. He's offering his harvest, and then next to a hands holding the greens with the light kind of flying through them. So like, we didn't go from Elizabeth into the kitchen. We went from Elizabeth into the world of food creation from the earth. And then the next left and right is the rice field next to the carrots. I know these images probably have nothing to do with each other in terms of when they were created, but the oranges, the orange work, the whole notion of a field delivering the bounty of the carrots, that worked for me. The eggs Benedict, and then here's Elizabeth again in her yellow rain hat. The palette kind of strung those together for me. And now we're moving into a more traditional kind of view of food photography where you're looking at a bunch of food, but I wanted to set the portfolio up as being more about the experience of food life, not just food. So we have the salmon next to the wine. I love that pairing. I think it has appetite appeal, which is really important always. I would drink that wine while eating that salad. These are beverages, garden beverages next to cantaloupe. These are spaces I would walk into right away and sit down and start eating. They're so authentic feeling and delicious. Then we go back outside to the guy on the tractor and the longhorn cattle coming towards us. I love how those environments talk to each other. And then there's, what's her name? Cindy and the pig. I think her name is Cindy or Gina. And the pig next to the olives. Glenn and his sheep. And then Glenn harvesting. Always the people and their food. And then a big crossover, page 26 and 27, big, huge hands holding sweet potato greens. It's kind of like signaling a new chapter. The next chapter is about crawfish. So page 28 and 29, another big crossover of sunrise at the crawfishery. Alan is the fisherman. He's pulling up his catch. These are next to each other, 30 and 31, the crawfish coming out of the water. 32 and 33, the name, it's another crossover. The name of this image is Mom, Crawfish Mom. And I looked at that image for a long, long time, and it's so complex, and there's many layers there. There's the kids and the angles of the whatever that swing set is and her rope. I just could not figure out how to put it next to something without destroying it, so it's a big crossover. 34 and 35, we're back on the table, the toast and people in the field laughing. I don't think of farmers typically as laughing, but this made me think about them in a different way. And now it's night. This is definitely sunset. next to the
Linda,
oyster.
Linda, you need to slide your board up so we can see the bottom.
Okay.
A little
Yeah.
more. That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Can you see, move the light maybe?
That should work.
So we're back at nighttime, the oysters, and then this next group of four, the hands slicing what I'm calling chives and the fishtail and the two corns. Those were images that Amy sent to me during one of our back and forths where she said, you know, these are newer. How do I introduce them in the portfolio, or should I not? And my first idea of how to do that was to make a group of four of them, like a grid stacked. And that looked okay, but you can't make a design device like that at once and then not do it again. So I tried to do it again later and it wasn't working as well. So she and I both decided, no, that's not the way. And we kind of unraveled them this way. And I think they work over here, leading up to, because I want to come back to where we started, which was the guy in the field, but the peaches. And now we're back, that last image. I want to, can you get a close up of that?
Sure.
Can I hold it up?
I'm
That
gonna
one.
take the camera now.
Oh my God, Brian, look at you. The guy, there's a man in an orchard. It's so, how could this not be the last picture? It's a beautiful ending. There's punctuation that it feels like the end, but it's the end of the same story of working the land for food.
Do you want me to do a close-up through the whole thing?
No, I think that's because I can share the bridge screen now too. Should I do that, Marianne?
Yeah, I think it'd be great to show the bridge view. I think by this time people are probably drooling to see these pictures a little closer.
Yeah, because I just didn't want to start with the bridge thing because in bridge I can't identify the left and right situation. So Amy,
So
there we go. Can you see that?
you got to share
I
your
have to
screen.
share the screen first. Good, yes, sorry.
That
Here we
screen rectangle.
go. Okay, here we go. Yeah?
There you go.
That's it. Yep.
Oh, but it's not in order. Okay, hold on. View manual, sort. Bear with me, sorry, manually. There we go. That is the digital, how pretty, you can see it much more closely and beautifully. Thank you, Brian. The digital version of the thing we just looked at.
Linda, can we have you, if you click your close-ups button.
Yep.
Up at the top next to
Yep.
Linda's edit room.
Gotcha.
And then click on that first image all the way on the left. The woman, I think you said her name was Elizabeth.
Yeah.
That's great. And then if you could just arrow through to the right slowly, I think people would really appreciate seeing these.
Sure. So we got that. We have, this is page 2 and 3. That's the left of 4 to the right of 5. That's the left 6. Am I going too fast?
I think this is good.
To the right, 7. Then the Piff, I love this man. Just love him. He's on the left next to this picture, which I also love. It just makes me want to praise all green things. This is the sunrise over the rice field and the carrots. This is the Eggs Benedict next to Elizabeth in the rain with her yellow raincoat. Slicing bread overhead. Salmon, yum. Wine, yum. The beverages, I don't know, I've never seen a glass like that. They're like chaps on that glass. It's just a very beautiful way to drink a summer beverage next to cantaloupe and prosciutto, of course. But now we're back in the field. And you know that, this is a little bit jagged, but it's not the word, like some things are still working. The palette still works for me. And I want to get back to the earth because that is the overriding message, I think, from Amy. And we're in the earth with those beautiful longhorn coming straight at us. That's left and right. Oh, Christine, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember her name. Christine and her pig, gorgeous, next to the olives, because who wouldn't want to jump in that bowl? Oh, Glenn and his sheep. Doesn't everyone want a sheep? I do. And now here's Glenn harvesting. Like, these are real people doing this work. I'm so thrilled to meet them. This is intended to be a big crossover, crossing over 2 pages in a portfolio, giant. It's like the music gets really loud when you turn the page here. And then you turn it again. And even though you're going from hands to a car, the palette works for me. And I want there to be this, whoa, where are we now? This is Alan and his catch next to the catch and the sun, left and right. This is the mom, crawfish mom. Look at that, wow. Toast on the left and the laughing farmers on the right. Somebody has an iPhone in the middle of the field too, that's cool. The sunset, this is, I don't know why I know for sure this is sunset and not sunrise. I knew that even without the name. And oysters, because you eat oysters at sunset, I do. Now we're back in the prep world with the sneaky introduction of the new work. It's like, this is new from Amy, and the lighting is, you know, it's a slightly more graphic, it's a little more produced feeling, but I'm hoping it doesn't feel crazy out of place, because I think every portfolio needs a place where you keep sacred the introduction of new work. Otherwise, how are you ever going to build a whole new body of work, which you always need to do? Peaches being prepped next to peaches in the crate. And then it's like, okay, it's going to be okay. We're going to have all this bounty again. That is the bridge version of this portfolio.
So Linda, the next thing we were going to talk about with this portfolio is we were going to talk a little bit with Amy about any surprises she had along this journey with you.
Let's have Amy talk. Hi, Amy.
Hi there. Can you hear me all right?
We can. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Amy, did you have any surprises along this little journey you've taken with Linda over the past couple days?
I really did. It was really interesting to see it from another person's eyes. I had worked with a friend who's an art director to come up with an initial web sort of portfolio that I'd been using. But being able to work with someone new who wasn't familiar with my work and brought, you know, a lot of conversation about the shapes and the colors in the images, not just sort of creating a linear story, trying to group the work through topic, really sort of opened my eyes to pairings I would never have done before. And another aspect that was really interesting for us was Linda and I looked at my website and I discovered the difficulty of having a responsive site that constantly moves the order of your images around. And so that brought to light that I wanted to make adjustments in that way because I didn't have control about what was next to one another and making sure that that story looked cohesive.
Nice. That's great. Do you feel like, is there anything you want to go back and shoot to add to your portfolio now after going through this? And I know you've been shooting a ton, so I feel a little funny asking you that.
I always want to be adding to it. I do think by talking with Linda and hearing some of her thoughts, it was really useful to see maybe I could come up with pairings or even go back and through and see some of the images from some of these past shoots to see if I could come up with pairings of broader shots or closer up shots to partner with some of the images that I selected for this that might give more context and may help with some of the transitions too.
Cool.
That's great. So Linda, if you go up next to where it says Linda's Edit Room and click on your essentials, we can get one last look at the whole collection before we...
Okay, I'm sorry, say that. Go to...
The little arrow right there. And just go...
Right, that's good.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. You knew what I wanted.
There we go.
That was it, yeah. I feel...
One last look at the whole collection.
Thank you, Amy. I mean, I would love if you do any spinning off to tell deeper stories about any part of this journey. Let me know. I want to know. I want to come with.
So we'll move on and we'll take a look at Jason's work, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Just a reminder, only questions in the Q&A box will be answered, and we'll hang on to Amy and Jason as well for the Q&A.
All right, I'm just gonna move this. Yeah. You want to maybe take that away? Thanks. Okay.
We're really mixing our high tech and our low tech today. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's the only way to be, right?
Yeah. Brian, are you ready to share that screen for us?
We're getting there. Yep.
All
right.
Move it around.
Are you them all at the same time?
Not really. They're two separate things. There's like an A and a B situation.
So guys, part of Linda's process when she works with photographers is she actually will take your pictures and go and get them printed, and then she actually moves the pieces of paper around. And that's how she comes up with how the book's laid out. So when we talked about doing this presentation, she really wanted to make sure that she could show how she's moving things around on these pieces of paper.
Oh,
and there we are.
So Jason, hi Jason, nice to meet you.
How's it going? Nice to see you.
Jason sent me two sets of images. One was in a gallery called Fashion, and the other was in a gallery called Passion. So this, fashion is a curious concept to me. I never know what people mean by it. And when I asked Jason what it meant to him, he had the greatest answer. He said, it's really not about the clothes. It's about how the clothes make someone feel, which I completely dig. And this is a good moment for me to mention that I think it's really important for photographers to remember how important it is to tell stories inside their individual images. And in the world of every story has three components: characters, places, and objects, or minimally three. Many fashion photographers do what I call a lot of twosies. There's like a person with a thing or a person in a place. And happily, Jason had enough. There's one of these images where I was like shrieking when I saw it, like, yay, thank God it's the woman in the striped shirt. She's got jeans with a hole in the knee, and she's in a room and she's looking out the window, and it's not just a person in her dress. Like, I think I love clothes, but to sell me clothing, you have to show me like where I'm going to be when I'm not going to be wearing it, on no seam. I'm going to be wearing it in the world somewhere. So anyway, that the first, are you going to do that? Oh, that's cool. And I can also do this in Bridge, but stop right there for a minute. That the guy with his, I love that it's about the watch. You don't even really need to see the top of his head, but who is this guy and what's important to him? And it might be her. So sometimes juxtaposing can help make a story where there isn't a complete one yet. Then, these are sort of traditional, they're all about the clothes. She feels like she's pretty happy, and I like the little cloud outdoors. And then the next one was another moment for me of like, Jason, oh, cool. Who is this guy? What is it? Tell me about this car. What is it, Jason?
So that was a friend of mine's uncle's Buick. It's like a 1965 Buick, and I got it. He was kind enough to let me use it for the shoot that I did, and it was fantastic, and it was very cramped to get in and shoot in, but it was so worth it.
It's a great shot, and you do have a headless issue going on here. You like to chop people's heads off, and sometimes it's like, I don't need to see the head. This story is complete for me without the head. And who is this guy? And then if you go to the next spread where we have these beautiful flowered, these women in these flowered dresses, that guy is somehow thinking about them. And these two images spoke to each other to me because they're so different, but the floral pattern links these women in my mind. And then if you go to the next one, there's like, that other floral lady is important in the story. But then there's a real attitudinous human, like, yeah, really? Like the whole lineup of the flower dresses to the woman with her hands on her hips. that, to me, that's a nice little riff of a parentheses. I do not know really how much it has to do with the guy in the car, but something, we're not sure yet. And then I had to come into this is that picture of in the world. This is a total, I don't know if this woman really lives in this space, but it's so believable. It's the whole it's the whole story. She's there with her clothing and her stuff. And it gives gravity to this lineup to me that I was needing. I was feeling a little bit too much just person in their clothes. Now there's a person in a total story. And then, but you know, that's not a formula. Like sometimes you get a picture like this where this hood is so the product. Wow. How can you not look at that hood? And just a note about little pieces of paper. When I went back to Bridge, and I think Jason intended this as a vertical, but as I was playing with it on the table, I saw it as a horizontal. So he was kind enough to let me keep it as a horizontal in this lineup. But we did a version with her as a vertical. I wanted to honor that if that was important to him. And this fellow with the glasses, he's going to be important. He came from the other collection. He's present twice. He's also in the Passion lineup. And I wanted another face. It was good to have a man. I feel like they are, you know, they could be knowing each other or wanting to, the hoodie and this guy. And it felt sort of like the woman in the striped shirt. There's some gravity there. He's very real, authentic feeling. And then we move to the guy. Now he has a girl in front of the backdrop with the ladder. He was present earlier in the lineup, but now he has emerged with another human. Good. And then the car comes back, but there's some, you know, this, I'm not sure, she looks a little worried. Like, I'm not really sure what's going on in the world here of this woman's life, but it's the same car. I feel like it's the same car. And then the very last image, they're headless again, but the image seems to me to be about the feet. And I mean, this is a great, it also feels like an ending to me. And there's some mystery what's going on in these people's lives, but they certainly know how to dress well. I love this image for that reason. I don't need the head. Sometimes you need a head, sometimes you don't need a head. And do you want me to share the Bridge version of this now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is fashion. And 5 stars. Is that it? Yeah.
Go into Zoom.
Go into Zoom. Where's Zoom?
And then share screen.
Oh, cool. Is that it? Cool. Can you see?
Yeah.
Oh, I can make them bigger too with that slider. Oh, shall I do one at a time?
Yeah, you can just click on that close-ups up at the top and
Oh, right,
we can click through them real
Okay.
quick. Brian did give us a good view with his camera though, so that was very nice.
Thank you, and thank you all. I've just learned Bridge 30 seconds ago. Thank you, Marianne. So here's Come On In. I can't think of a better opening for his fashion work. It's so joyful and interesting. And no, I would never wear a purse on my head, but you want to come in. I don't think this is a very welcoming opening. First right-hand page. Then we have a crossover. You know, good-looking guy in front of a backdrop that's a little bit mysterious. Why are there leaves on the ground? I'm not sure. There were many lingerie images, and I just thought she was the most stunning because I love everything about this picture. Her hair, the shirt, what she's sitting on, the light on her face. It's just a beautiful, gorgeous image. Now we have left to right. And then we have left and right, crossover. Oh my gosh, mystery man in the car, left and right. Now this, I was trying to make a silly crop on the board there. Like I would turn this into a vertical just to pair with this so that they work really well. You know, I'm not a designer, but that doesn't seem to be a difficult thing to do. And I like them looking at each other. They each have their flower dress. Another flower dress, totally different vibe, which I also love. And I love that he placed her in front of this horizontal, this backdrop of black and white strong. But she's not having any of that. This brings it back to what's going on in that car. And she might know something. Left, the crossover, big crossover here, horizontal. Hoodie, oh yeah. I could just touch, the texture on that hood is so powerful. It just jumps off. I can want to like go to sleep in that hood, right? He's liking it too. Now Mr. Man has a woman in the front of the backdrop, but the leaves aren't being shown anymore much. So that maybe they're in the lower left corner a little bit. And she's worried, and they're having a nice night. So this is the fashion lineup for Jason. And
Linda, before we go to the board, could we just click to Jason's passion portfolio in the bridge?
Sure.
And then,
while we're here, good idea.
yeah, while we're here,
Okay.
there we go.
Passion.
And if you go up to essentials, we can see the full Megillah. And if you use your little slider at the bottom, we can make them all a little bigger.
Wow.
There we go.
How's that?
That's great.
Cool. So passion, I asked Jason, now this is a curious name for a gallery. What does passion mean? Because whose passion is it that we're talking about? And I think, as I recall, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, he's basically told me that many of these people you were photographing because they were passionate about whatever activity they were engaged in. And there's a whole lot of different activities. So you know what, should I do close up now and go one by one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let's start with, there he is. This, you know, you can see I have kind of a pattern here. I like the I always look for opening and closing images in the beginning of a process. He's just a great opening. Like, I don't know why he's gritting his teeth, but I kind of want to know. Like, he doesn't frighten me. I feel something intense is going on, but it's not evil intense. It's kind of like the intensity of like running the last mile. Okay, as is she, feeling intensely in the moment of exercise in the sun, which, you know, many of us don't know what that is. I am intending these two next to each other. Actually, it's the same woman. I love that her hair is blowing and that she's like, I feel like that's the feeling in the clothing there, that I feel very broad with this jacket of hers. This man, I believe, is an instructor that Jason knows, a martial arts fellow who's passionate and wonderful. And when I was imagining an actual printed portfolio, imagine this woman tying her shoe flopped. I'm sure there's a way to do that I don't know. And next to him, I think that would work well. She's kind of looking at him. I love this image. This is the story that doesn't need the head. The carabiner, the guy with all of that equipment, it's like jewelry hanging off his belt, even though we know it's about climbing. And yeah, here's Mr. Guy with the glasses from the fashion portfolio, because he wants to go climbing. I'm imagining those next to each other. I know it's really hard to run a vertical next to a horizontal, but a good designer can make it work. I don't do it often, but I think it works here. And these people up in the crevice, in the cave, in the mountain, super cool. They climbed with those carabiners. And they, you know, it's passion. They sometimes bleed. Yeah, this is a weird transition, but this is, you know, I like, there was a lot of kind of a certain tone that wasn't particularly bright, and then we get Miss Bright, which is so exciting. It's like, I often say, what kind of music do you want playing in someone's head when they look at your portfolio? I guarantee it's not a monotonous drum beat. You want modulation, and this like wakes me up. Oh my gosh, look at that bright runner. This is an important image. Originally I had thought this would be the end of the portfolio. Jason explained that this was a buddy of his. I think this is in Joshua Tree, and you know, he saw the moment. He said, just like, turn around, stop, let me, I don't need the head here either. I got the glasses in the hand. Tells me what I need to know. And I feel like it's a little bit of a stretch, her next to him, but I like the brightness. That's what links it for me. Now she's out in the world doing the run. He's a curious fellow. I mean, I had some I wasn't sure about him. He came in, he went out, he came in, he went out. And I left him in because if you, again, another horizontal next to a vertical, but I think they would work next to each other. This is that woman we saw in the earlier part, back at the end, but feeling more in her total environment now. And this, you know, we're not outside anymore. And I had to get, this is the story. I needed it in the portfolio. I struggled with where to put it, and I think it's fine here. She's passionate about LPs, good. And he's passionate about her. I mean, this is I like that it's black and white. I like the texture of the landscape, and he's a little mysterious. And now it's kind of like the big finish. We have the biker to this gorgeous human with the necklace and gorgeous light, passionate about who even knows, but it doesn't matter. It's something, and you want to be part of it. This woman going to fly her helicopter, and where is she going? She's going there. This, you know, the woman and the helicopter to this image, I always had near each other, but once I realized that the guy holding his sunglasses wasn't going to work as the ending, I needed an ending, and this seems like a very fitting ending. It's like, stay tuned for Jason's next adventure. So that's that.
And I think what would be interesting now, if we go back over to the boards, I think Brian put up the passion board for you while we were chatting. Maybe if you could just highlight a couple of the, you know, 2 or 3 of the big riffs that you saw in the passion folder on the board.
Okay. Is the board up? He's getting there.
It will be.
Okay.
Boom, there it is.
Oops, it's crooked a little bit.
So maybe just highlight for us a couple of the, you know, the riffs that you saw that were some of your favorites. Just, you know, 2 or 3 of them.
Okay. You know, these 2, I love these 2. The carabiner and the guy with the glasses. Oh, yeah. Cool.
And why is that one of your favorite
And,
pairings?
you know, I don't know who that guy is, but I feel like he wants to be using the equipment that's in the picture next to him. Maybe that's a stretch, but I feel like that I didn't want to put the carabiner belt stuff next to the rock climbing because that was too obvious. I think sometimes you want to do things that aren't so obvious. It keeps it interesting. I also really liked these 2. I struggled, like, do we really want the people in the cave next to the crucifix moment, I call it. But that, it's very odd scale-wise, of course, really close, but having seen the carabiners and somehow they got up there, I can understand that you might have had a moment where you hurt yourself climbing the rock. And the tones work. So sometimes when it's oddly placed conceptually, you could, palette-wise or compositionally, it'll hold it together. I think this still holds together, those 2. What do you think?
Nice.
I like it. It creates this extra story.
Yeah, I can't, you know, this, what is, I was trying to find a face that looked like this. Or I think Jason said it reminded him of a fish, but I didn't see any image. Jason, do you have any fish images that we could put
I
next
don't
to?
yet, but I think I could definitely try and get some at some
You know,
point.
you can shoot for the holes in your portfolio always. But what I learned doing both of these for Jason was that, you know, they actually could live together. You could make two little books in a slipcase. I'm not sure I'm ready to say put them all in one portfolio, but you could show them together. They seem to balance each other. They're about the same number of images, and I don't know. I mean, that could be useful in certain sales moments for you.
That's great. So Jason, you know, the question for you, what kind of surprises did you have while working with Linda these last couple of days?
So first off, it was an absolute pleasure. It was great to work with somebody that, you know, has a lot of experience. And it was really nice to, like, when she talked about riffs in terms of, you know, how things work together from a higher level perspective. For me, that was really interesting. A couple of years ago, I started doing a similar thing to what she does on her board, where I start printing up my images small, so that way I can disconnect from how much I feel, what I feel about the images, and just look at them from a higher level perspective. So for me, it was nice to see that that's a way to look at things. And especially the way she talked about story and some of the exercises we went through. I now have a list of things that I want to go through and do test shoots for or put in my portfolio, because I kind of have more of a strategy to kind of work on that. So it was really nice. And it definitely has me thinking in the right direction for the going forward.
Nice.
Hey,
That's
cool.
great.
That's the mission, is to I know everyone's all wondering what's happening and what's going to happen next, but the one thing every photographer can still do is make pictures. Make pictures, you know, like whatever it takes to go make them. Try something completely new. I know that this may seem cumbersome, this whole put the little pieces of paper out on the board, but there's something you gain by looking at an overview of a collection of images that I do not believe you can get by going next on a computer screen. So I think it's important to give yourself permission to do that still.
Thanks, Linda. Well, we have a handful of questions, and I'm going to have you guess what question has been asked 3 times.
I don't know. Is it how many pictures? No.
It is.
Oh, God.
How many pictures should be in a portfolio?
As many as you need to tell the story efficiently is my answer. I don't think there's such a thing as a magic number. I think that, okay, having said that, like 5 is too few and 90 is probably too many. But there's a big land in between where you could have a story told, the arc of a journey nicely done in 30 images or 60 images. I think that's the range, that's the parentheses.
How long is a good movie?
Yeah, how long is a good movie? I don't know. Did you tell the story yet? Do you know what happened?
I'm going to start with the questions that came in when people registered. And this one says, what format do you prefer portfolios to be in?
What format?
So I think that's maybe asking, would you prefer them in a book or loose prints or on an iPad or?
I personally prefer a bound book. I remember one of the earliest meetings I ever had with a commercial photographer. He actually had prints in a box, and he took them out and he showed them to me. And at the end of the day, later that night, I remembered one picture of a pig flying, and I couldn't remember anything else. So I think if it's a bound book, you're controlling the sequence, especially if the portfolio then travels down the hall to my colleague. I don't have to worry about shuffling it back in the order you want them to see the pictures in. So that's my preference, bound book.
All
If
right.
you mean what size and shape, that's a whole nother pile of cantaloupes.
Maybe we'll say that.
You know, I know that there's a lot of horizontal imagery in the world we just were in, and that can be a problem. Horizontals next to horizontals. I'm not going to say don't do it, but be mindful of what shape your images are in to begin with before you choose a format for the printed book.
Excellent. So this question is, what kind of marketing do you recommend? Email, booklets, promos, face-to-face meetings are impossible to come by. And I think you should feel free to give Workbook a little plug here.
Oh, I could give Workbook a big plug here, but I'd like to answer the question and say all of it. Like as much, this is another one of those questions that is always asked and often answered, but still it needs to be asked. Like, what should I do? Do as much as you can, as often as you can. That's still my answer, because there's no one thing that's going to make the difference. It's the cumulative effect of people seeing your name, attaching it to your work in a memorable way. And then, you know, the beauty of broadcast print advertising, which is what the Workbook is that it very efficiently can give you an opportunity to get seen often, your name and your pictures, so that any next direct marketing that you do has an opportunity to work more immediately, more quickly, and be more memorable for longer. I believe that. If direct mail occurs in the context of broadcast advertising, it's going to get heard faster than if it's just another postcard in their mailbox. But if you can't afford to do everything, which is usually the next part of the conversation, the one thing you must do, I urge you to do, is to create a list of targets for who do you want to be in front of. There's ways to find out who did the last campaign you saw that made you happy. That's important. So you can always be studying the market of your potential clients to create lists of people you really want to reach out to. That just costs time. So I urge everyone to do that all the time anyway. The beauty of broadcast print promotion is that it's going to reach the people who haven't won any awards yet, but maybe they're going to. So if you can't know them, you can make sure that they know you.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
That's a huge part of what drives my engine. It's like, reach out to those future award winners. They are just as concerned about the arc of their career as you are of yours. Get out there in front of them.
All right. For those with commercial and photojournalistic portfolios, should separate websites be created?
No.
Okay.
I say no, because why? You know, it's the same reason I'm like so stoked about the idea of a storytelling image. A whole lot of noise has been made about marketing to different people differently. Oh, gee, it's an ad agency art director. Oh, hey, it's a designer. It's a freelance producer. It's a brand manager. You can't have 12 different portfolios imagining what someone will like. You never know that's unknowable. You can only know yourself. And it makes more sense from an efficiency standpoint to ask what they share, not how are they different. What do they share? They all need visual stories told. So it's, to answer the question more directly, I think it's more complicated to have one website with different segments that are stylistically very different. But if you're interested in both worlds, then you need to show them both and create ways to link them. Create bridges. That could be your next sample shoot, or just to shoot the bridge between the two areas. Did that make sense?
That did. That was great.
Okay.
I'm going to switch over to some of the Q&A that have come in while we're talking. Just a quick reminder, Q&As that come into the Q&A box will be answered by Linda. Q&As that go into the chat box will be answered by attendees. So ask at your own risk over there. And Jeff Reed asks, or it might be Joff, so apologies, Jeff or Joff. What do you mean by every portfolio needs a place where you keep sacred the introduction of new work? And I can repeat it if you want.
Pardon me?
I can repeat it if you like.
No, I know. I remember saying that, and I remember feeling that and thinking that when Amy, thank you, Amy, sent me those 4 pictures and said, how can I introduce this new way of seeing that I'm working on into a body of work that's really different? That, I mean, as you're lining up all of your images in your portfolio, think of like chapter 3.2 or the end of chapter 4 as the zone think of it like a room in your house, like it's the back porch where you're going to keep it clean because something's going to happen there that hasn't happened yet. And you want to give it every opportunity to receive new pictures without feeling without throwing off the rhythm of the whole rest of the book. It's like an area, when I talk about riffs, I think of portfolios as blocks of, here's a group of 4 that belong together. Here's 10 pictures. Here's 8. Here's the new zone. I don't know what's going to happen here tomorrow, but even if nothing goes here, I can go from this picture to this picture. But if I get 6 new ones, I can slide them in here and it'll be just fine. It won't damage the rest of the flow.
Thank you. Kimberly Maroon asks, how do you balance your photo pages of your portfolio on your site against video? For those of us that do both video and motion, all motion work on one page versus a dedicated page for your highlight reel, more easily accessible.
Can you read the question? I know.
She's asking about putting video next to your still photos on a website. So this relates a little bit to Amy as well. I know on Amy's website, she has some of her cinegraphs sitting next to her still photos.
I was going to ask, Brian Schilling, who's a filmmaker, could be asked to weigh in here, but I have a thought, but I'd love to know what you think.
Putting videos next to still images, or should they be kept completely separate?
I think they should be separate. What do you think? You think they should be together?
I haven't had jobs that have really done side by side, motion and stills. So
Speak up, Brian.
Oh, I personally haven't had jobs. I've done usually still jobs or motion jobs, but not usually ones that combine them both with equal weight, where I would want to showcase them next to each other. So I've typically partitioned them into their own.
I see. I think that's a really good answer. Also, thank you for sharing that about your own experience, because unless you have a project where you have both from the same experience, I think it's really hard to integrate that in the same gallery. I would keep them separate.
If it was a capabilities gallery about how you're able to do both, then I could see how that would be more practical. But since the galleries are usually based on concept or a single narrative,
yeah,
you'd only be showing pieces from that one job then. So I would think you'd want to collect more things together for a portfolio or a gallery.
And it's, like Amy, I remember when I first saw your website, and the gifts are really sweet, but they're also very overpowering. Like if you're looking at 6 image areas and one of them has sugar spraying in the air and the sun on it, it's really hard to look away from that. The other ones get lost a little bit. So I guess my answer is I prefer them separate, unless the point is to talk about, I did both things for this guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a feeling that's going to be one of those things that's going to be an ongoing conversation, since so many of us are doing both now. So that's
agreed. And I certainly, there's nothing wrong with literally saying, click here for my motion work, and on your motion gallery, click here for my stills, like lead them back and forth. But
yeah,
visually, I think they should be separate at the beginning stages of this journey.
Excellent. Okay, John Rondinelli, and I definitely pronounced that right. Of course I did. Are there any criteria you rank higher than others when creating image pairings? For example, color palette. So would you rank colors higher than shapes or any of the other elements?
I love this question because I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I would ask each of you to think about this. When you enter a room, what is the first thing that you experience? The color or the shapes? It's kind of chocolate or vanilla. I think that most people have an orientation one way or the other. That it's not that only one is important. They're both important, but we experience the world differently. And there's a curious little anecdote that makes sense. I don't know how many of you know what the workbook is, but if you can imagine it before it's bound, it's a bunch of ads on the ground, and we have to put it together. And we will.
Did we just lose Linda?
the page and the colors don't work, it makes me crazy. At which point I said, that's so interesting, because for me, it's kind of really all about shapes. If you turn the page and the shapes don't work, it makes me crazy. So we realized right at that moment that if we were both voting yes on a transition, it was the right answer. Yeah, ideally they all work, but if you can't make them all work, which is the most important thing to you? Palette or shape? It's one or the other. I think those both override like emotion or content even, because with the way we see, it's colors and shapes first, I think. Oops, where'd you go?
I'm back.
I hope that answered the question.
I think it did, and you also have a little agreement from the famous Carolyn Potts in the chat. She agrees with you. She thinks it must be both. Another photo editor.
Thank you, Carolyn. Hello.
All right, so let's see. All right, this is from Carl Seifert. Using Amy's work, for example, how would you approach designing a printed portfolio with a collection that contains multiple size formats in both vertical and horizontal?
Get a good designer. I mean, it's not impossible, but you don't just fall out of bed and have it there. Amy's wasn't as hard for me as Jason's, actually. I guess Amy's sweet spot is a horizontal. And so Amy, I'd love to see you start shooting more vertically, just to balance it a little bit more. But most of the problem is the horizontals next to each other. If you have a horizontal book, it's going to be like the size of the Mississippi River when you open it up. So I don't know the answer to that because I'm not a designer, but I don't think it should dissuade you. I think you need to work with someone who understands how to format things in the actual book limits before you say, oh no, I can't do it. Because there's ways. And sometimes it involves borders, making borders around something instead of full bleed. I love full bleed often because it's very powerful, but sometimes it's you don't want full bleed, and then it's like, oh God, give me a rest. Sometimes you really need not full bleed.
I would say, if I can jump in, that I loved that you paired vertical with vertical, and that was something I hadn't quite solved, and I think that it helped with the flow. I know that you can probably figure out horizontal and vertical together, but if you're looking at 2 pages side by side in a print book, I think it helps to have some parallel there. So that worked for me.
Oh, vertical is my sweet spot. That to me, that is how I love to look at portfolios. But not everybody shoots, what do you do with a horizontal? Not every horizontal is a crossover. So if you've got vertical, and then here's a crossover horizontal, and now here's 2 horizontals next to each other, they're going to be smaller. And because what I really have a pet peeve about it, you don't want to turn the book around. No one's good. Like, someone might do that once, they're never going to do it the next time. And that's not the solution. Don't make people turn the book around.
Right. So Erica Price would like to know if you have any thoughts on mixing color and black and white images in a sequence.
Carefully. If they are of equal weight in the total volume of images, unless you can weave them really well compositionally, it's jarring, it's hard. It's really hard to look at a black and white thing next to a color thing and have them integrate. I prefer seeing black and white next to black and white, color next to color, or if you have to do it, make it subtle color, like bright color next to black and white. You're never going to see the black and white. The bright color is just going to overtake that spread. So be mindful of the tonality if you're going to have to do that. But I would say try to segregate them.
All right, thank you. And let's see. I've got one more. I'm going to do one more from Erica Price, who says, does Linda do freelance editing work, helping photographers edit work for submissions to various open calls and other things?
Sure. Yes. When Linda's not sleeping. No, she doesn't do either. But yeah, no, yes. The answer is yes.
And we've got one fresh one from Karen Hirsch. What do you think is a stronger portfolio? A story series from one shoot or place, like a travel piece that would include people, landscapes, and products, in quotation marks, or making up a story from multiple shoots that you have to imagine what connects the images?
I think there's a place for each kind of solution, but in general, if you're working on a general portfolio, then it would be the latter, because you're able to introduce a range of topics that I don't think you, yeah, I don't think one is stronger than the other. I think they're used in different ways. If you're going to pitch work to a marine company, for example, you might want to show them the story you made on the boat for a weekend, and they would dig it, and it would have traction with that audience. But do you want to make a new portfolio every time you have a meeting? I don't think so. You have to have a portfolio that is the movie of you, the story of you, that touches all the points you want to make about the stories you want to tell. Sometimes they're in the lake, sometimes they're in the treetops, sometimes they're in the library or the kitchen.
That's great.
I think.
That was something, Linda, that I know we kind of talked about on one of our talks, where you were starting to build a story connected between a lot of the different images that I had, and we walked through that a little bit, and that was really interesting to me. So I definitely see what you're saying there.
And the other, just remember, you can never really know what someone else is thinking. There was a moment, I think, where I was saying to you, Jason, like, oh my God, there's infidelity going on here. Like, this woman is so upset in the car because she thinks her husband's cheating on her. Who's he cheating with? Maybe it's this girl. Like, it was this whole concocted drama that, yeah, it's as valid as anything else. But I think that makes looking at portfolios kind of fun too. You can create a story around the pictures.
Nice. So speaking of that, Waldy Martins would like to know what your thoughts are on multiple images per page. If you had sort of a contact sheet style of the same shoot, just tell a story and save space.
It's not like, oh no, don't. But as I was mentioning with the experience with Amy, like if you, for one, if it's an entire portfolio that's a bunch of contact sheets, I think that's boring. It's the same problem with looking at a photographer who shoots a single subject from 6 feet away, always smiling, always in bright sunlight. Like, there's no rhythm there. But if you need to introduce multiple images inside a portfolio that also has single images, I think you just need to be mindful of the design of the total package. You don't just do it once, or it's like, what happened here? You need to do it throughout. Weave the contact sheet approach carefully among the single image approach.
All right. A couple little questions here. They all kind of work together. So let's do this one. This is from Bard Risley. How large of a book do you think is best? And do you feel that making images fill the pages is required as opposed to using smaller images? What about square books?
You went out.
I did. Am I back? I think you went out.
Can you hear? I still see her. Can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you now, but I didn't hear anything you said from when I did this.
It definitely wasn't important. But Bard Risley would like to know how large of a book you think is best, and do you feel that making images fill the pages is required as opposed to using smaller images? What about square books to accommodate those horizontals and verticals opposite one another?
Square books are fine. Like, you know, full bleed is sweet, not every second. I think it's about modulation, so that things are not the same every time you turn the page. Now that's not an invitation to like.
Oh, we lose her again. Everybody's on Zoom right now. We'll just give her a second to come back. There she is. Can you just say your last comment about that one more time, please?
What I just said?
Yes.
I said that anything that becomes a crutch that is a design solution, because you like it in one instance and you want to do it again and again and again, it's boring if that's all you're doing. I believe in modulation. Like, think of a great piece of music. Sometimes it's really loud, sometimes it's really soft. That's what makes it really interesting.
So I'm going to turn these last two questions into one question from Amy Santavica and Kenneth Wajda. Amy wants to know, should we be requesting portfolio reviews and meetings right now? Obviously web and Zoom calls. And Kenneth asks, do you have recommendations for contacting art directors you don't know or are not connected to get showings with them? This is kind of a strange time. How do you think people are feeling about those meetings?
The information I have gotten about what art directors want is that they still want to see work. So I don't, as strange as the times are, they still, I mean, they're still working. So if you, they still need to know what's out there that they can use to solve their problems. So I don't think it's a bad idea to try to reach out to them to show them your work, even if it is on a Zoom call. I also think that people are getting Zoom, what's the word?
Fatigue.
Zoom fatigue. Yeah, that can't, there's no way around that. That's not your fault. That's not anybody's fault. It's just kind of random who's going to say, oh yeah, and who's going to say, oh no, I don't want another Zoom call.
Yeah. All right. So that was our last one. I think it's time for us to wrap up. Do you have any last parting words about portfolios for our audience?
Oh, wow. Well, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who was involved in this journey. It was great for me. It was really fascinating to kind of fast track the notion of a portfolio review and sequencing and bridge and analog and digital. And thank you, Marianne, especially. Thank you. I think that keep making pictures. Like all of these issues, these questions, they're all terrific questions, and they've been asked a billion times. Like photographers, and I don't say that like, oh God, they've been asked a billion times. They're genuine questions, but they're worth asking and they're worth answering. Experiment. There's not, this is the way a portfolio should look. I want, if I can just let my final comment should be, trust yourself. Like, so often if you think something isn't working in your portfolio, it's probably not. Like, don't spend 6 weeks trying to make it work in your head. Just try to fix it. That might be more efficient.
Thanks, Linda, and thank you, Jason and Amy, for volunteering for this little experiment of ours. It was great.
Thank you very much.
You, and we really enjoyed seeing your work. And again, Linda Levy from Workbook. She's a photo and sales consultant there. And if you get a chance to pop over to the website, check out our June Member Appreciation Month activities. The workshops do have limited space in them, and the last day to register is tomorrow. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you all.
Thank you very much.
Go make pictures. Make more pictures.